Hello everyone. Just came back from the first proper ride on the moped. Only did about 10 miles I guess, and saw some smoke coming from underneath, and now I can see some oil. I'm not too sure where it's coming from, but the next job is going to be to try and investigate that. Seems like there's some dropping around the exhaust, but it's not leaking at the exhaust, so I'll have to figure out where it's coming from. I've just started removing parts of the bodywork, and you can see there's a fair bit of oil on the under tray, and similarly a fair bit of oil underneath there, so still not too sure where it's coming from, but I'll remove some of the plastic casing surrounding the cylinder head, and then we'll hopefully see where the oil is leaking from. So I'm just trying to give myself a bit more space, so I'll remove the 4 bolts holding the seat in place, remove that, and then we'll be able to see the engine better, and then maybe I'll have to remove this part of plastic here where you put your feet, and we'll just get better access. Bit of an update. So far I've given up removing this because I have to take everything off to be able to remove the foot pegs. So I am trying to remove this plastic housing. So basically what this does, it creates a channel for the air to go. So you've got your fan here, and then it just sucks air in and blows it over the cylinder head. So what I'm trying to do is just get the screwdriver in there and remove all the bolts that hold this plastic housing in place. So for the past about 15 minutes I've been struggling to get this part of the cover off, but it doesn't seem to want to come off. I took all the bolts out, I took the carburetor off as well, and I think what's holding it back is this plastic here. So what I'll do is remove the bolts around it, and hopefully that will free it up. So 3 bolts later, one there, and one there. The cover just comes off, and then now hopefully this is already a bit more free, but something is still holding it back. So I'm not too sure what. So just managed to make some space so I can see the cylinder, and one thing that I noticed is that one of the bolts holding the rocker cover is missing. So they must have been worked on the rocker cover before, and that leads me to believe that they haven't sealed it correctly, and the leak is probably coming from underneath, somewhere underneath, where the rocker doesn't seal correctly to the cylinder head. So it seems that all the oil is gathering in this location on the top part of the cylinder. There's nothing here, so it's probably not a head gasket leak. If it was a head gasket leak, you'd see a lot more crap coming out of there, but it's all centered around this location. And actually I can already see the gasket is not in place. Don't know if you can see that, but there we go. It's definitely rocker cover gasket. So we're gonna go ahead and remove the rocker cover and find a replacement bolt for the one that's missing, and that should solve the issue. I believe I removed all the bolts that hold the rocker cover in place. Hopefully we don't get a huge slug of oil leaking through there. Hopefully that oil would have all drained back in the sump, but the moped is at a very weird angle right now, so... Oh, there we go. No oil so far. That's positive. You can see the gasket coming off, and it's definitely broken there. Trying to be as careful as I can removing this, but it just seems to be a very tight spot. I've checked online everywhere and I can't seem to find a gasket for this rocker cover. So what I'll do is I'll use this, which is like a silicone gasket. So I'll put silicone all over here as well as on the cylinder head, and then basically the silicone will sandwich the existing gasket, and hopefully it will give us a good enough seal. I actually think that the reason it was leaking in the first place is because it was missing this bolt. So once we have that in and all siliconed up, then it should be fine. Just put a light bead of silicone on the cylinder head. It's not pretty, but once the gasket goes on, it should squash it and make it all even. And then the same on the rocker cover. I've just put the silicone in the groove all the way around, and hopefully that will do the job. Rocker cover is back on. You can see some of the silicone kind of getting squeezed out, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. That just means that it created a good enough seal all the way around and there was sufficient silicone. Hopefully there's not a lot of it inside the rocker cover, and I've tried to put it on the outside, but what I'll do is I'll let it set, and hopefully it should set inside and won't break off and clog any oil galleries. The engine is now back together, and it hasn't warmed up completely yet, but I can't really see any leaks at the moment. Just come back from a test drive. I can't see any leaks. I've let the engine sit for a while. There's no oil on the floor. There doesn't seem to be any oil leaking anywhere. So I think that the silicone gasket does a good job. It seals properly and there's no more leaks. I've also replaced that the missing bolt, so that definitely helps. I did try and see what the top speed is. I only managed to get to about 60 miles an hour, but that was on fairly flat surface with a bit of tailwind, so I think it's comfortable at 50. 55 is basically wide open throttle, and then if you have a bit of help from tailwind you'll reach 60, but it's not a very quick bike, but around town it's great.